Look at this logo. It is lifeless. Let's take this logo and kick it up a notch with Blender particles. And in order to do that, the first thing we do is get a vector logo and import it into Blender. So to import your SVG, what you do is click File, Import Scalable Vector Graphic. Navigate to where it is and open it up. And in order to zero out the rotation and everything on this, you just hit right click, set origin to geometry, Alt G to move it back to the center, and to rotate it, X 90 degrees and raise it up by 0.1. The second step is to make that logo three-dimensional. It kind of looks a little flat, so what we'll do is we'll click on our logo here and go to Curve Options, Geometry, 0.01 on that, so we can see it's giving us a little thickness. Next thing after that, we'll go and hit 0.002 for that. Change this to 1, so you have a little chamfer right here. Shade that flat so you can see the chamfer. The third step is to add your particle system. Go back to our solid view, go to our particles tab. And we want to be able to get access to the particles whenever we want to, so we'll click that, and click that. And we have this cache right here that we want to keep in the very top. So we'll go down, just keep this cache right here. So the next thing we're going to do is go up here to that, uncheck that. These particles are a little bit big, so we can go ahead and add our own particle here to Shift A and add a cone with 3 vertices, depth 1, so it's basically a equilateral pyramid. Let's go down with that, and that's going to minimize the topology in our scene here. So we're going to go here and go to our number of particles. We'll change that to 100,000 and uncheck show emitter on the viewport display so we can see what we're doing here. We'll go to frame 48 where they all are supposed to spawn out, and we're not seeing them. So what we're doing is going to go back here and go to cone. Now we should be seeing particle here, maybe 0.005. So now you have all these showing your logo. Now they're emitting from the surface, which we want them to emit from the volume. So to change that, we'll just go up here to emission, source, and change that to volume. And then just go to a different frame, and now you can see they're all pretty bunched together now. Now it's a little laggy, so we're going to turn down the particles just for now while we do our little simulation tests with the force fields. So we're going to go here, and the next step is add your force fields and animate them. Shift A, go to force field, add a turbulence force field. You can see what that's doing, spreading everything out there. And we can go to our physics settings here, change that strength to 20. So there's something weird going on here. And what we want to do after this is to add a bunch of noise to it. So we'll crank the noise all the way up. And that's going to add a bunch of noise to our particles to break them up. Next thing, we're going to add a little bit of wind factor here. It just spreads them out even more. Now, this fall off here is going to determine, based on this object right here, this turbulence object, if it is over here, you will be able to see a minimum and maximum distance. So let's do 1 meter. Now, anything outside of this will not be affected by this. So let's go, and you can see nothing is affected. So what we want to do is we want to take this turbulence, put it in its own collection, force collection. We want to animate this. Well, to do that, we will go back here to the beginning, change that to 0, keep it in the middle here for now, and there we go, let's go back again. So instead of it being just this turbulence, we want to also add a wind force and rotate that on the x-axis. And both of these will be attached to an empty sphere. So you go here, click these two, control click on the empty, control P, object, and now when you move the empty, you can move the force fields. So that's how we're going to animate everything. We'll go, here is where it starts. So we will start on frame 48 and move our empty from the left over here. And then we'll go about, well, it's 48, 2 seconds. Can't forget to change our wind to that, our fall off there, and our wind should be shaped to tube, so that way it doesn't go without us being on it. Okay, now it is not moving at all, so it's only going to move. You want to make sure your wind is set to radial power 10, and then use minimum, use maximum, 0 to 1. 0 to 1, and then both Z direction and tube. So the next thing we're going to do is animate our empty. So we're going to go from 48 and keyframe that, and then go to 96, and then keyframe that to move over here, and now we should have pretty solid animation. What you want to do is, instead of it going, so at this point you can start playing around with your forces to get the look that you want. Play around with the settings until you like it. Step 5, add shaders. So we'll go to frame 1, and we will go into our settings here, and we're going to add a gradient texture going into a transparent texture, but instead of this going into the transparent texture, we're going to mix these two into a mix shader and have this gradient texture drive this. So we'll go here, and you can't see our logo here, so we'll go ahead and go back down here, click show emitter, so we can see it. Now you can see this gradient texture. If you do Control T with the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, you can see that our linear gradient is working here. So let's go with our gradient, and you can see that. Control Shift and click with the Node Wrangler add-on to do that. And in order to move this, you can just go on the X right here. But I don't really like that. I think what I want to do is I want to map this to our empty. So we'll go to our empty here, and now we can see that it is on there. But at the first frame, I don't want it to be on there. I want it to be somewhere off frame. So we go here, and we will go lower that down until it's black, just black. So we're going to move this to where our empty should be. It's set to linear, so it's the reason it's not working is because we need it on a quadratic sphere. So whenever you lower that, it should 1, that, there we go, 5. And then as it comes over it, it becomes white. And that is what makes it disappear, because that is controlling our alpha on here. But as you can see, it starts off gone and comes in, which we don't want that. We want the opposite. So we'll go search, invert color, just to invert that, and that is going to give us what we want here. And we want it to be a little bit sharper, and we want it to be gone by the time 48 gets here. So we'll go back here, and we'll see on 48 is still white. So we can go to color ramp, add a color ramp here, make that crunchy. All right, and for some reason, all of our particles are getting gone. So what we'll do is change this to logo, and we'll click on our particle. We'll separate that into a different texture, call it particle, but you have this problem where they just appear there. So right where it starts to disappear on 1, we are actually going to spawn our points in at frame 1 instead. So we'll go delete bake, and we'll change this to 1, and then we'll change this back to 300 because I accidentally did that, and then we will bake again, and then it should be perfect. All right, and now we have this. And it starts going crazy. So it starts out, gets rid of everything, makes it look particleized, and then starts doing the animation. And that is going to clear everything out on that end. And that takes you all the way to the end. And you can see all these particles here. So if you want to, you can have them switch on whenever they start to move instead, and go back to the starting at, better yet, we'll go back to these particles here, change the particle to back to this logo, and then instead of inverting it here, we can change this and call it party, and we can X that out and put this as the factor. And now your particles are gone until they show up, and you can adjust this to your liking. So we'll go here, change it to about here, see what we like about it. And you can adjust the fall off by changing this to 0.01 or 0.001 or 0.1. There we go. That's actually doing it better. 1.2, 3, 4, 48, and there you go. I like that a lot better. So let's turn our particles off for a second so we can actually see the animation for the camera pretty good. Make our viewport less laggy. Step 6, camera animation. So what you can do is you can go to your camera here, and in order to animate that, what you want to do is go to the frame that you want to start animating, which is 48 for me. Hit I. Go to the frame that you want to stop animating, which will, let's go turn this back on so we can see what they're doing. We like it about here, and go back to our camera, change that to where you can see a little bit different of an angle, and then just hit I again, and hit I here, and go back here, actually to something a bit better looking. Let's see what that looks like. I like that. Let's just change this, scale it up a little bit, go back a little bit, and go back to your camera, hit I, and then that should give you, and here you go. Here is your final animation. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like and notification bell for more videos whenever I post them. As always, these project files will be available on Patreon for the price of 1 coffee. This video has been sponsored by Ancient Soul Tattoo. If you'd like to pick up one of these awesome hats, or if you'd like to get a tattoo and you're in the Chattanooga area, if you're not, buy a plane ticket, go to ancientsoultattoo.com and check out what they've got. And if you're looking for a video on how to motion track your footage, check out my last video.